You waited for this. A stretch of time with nothing pulling at it. No one needing you, nothing due, no reason to be anywhere in particular. And now that it is finally here, you find yourself standing in the middle of it, not quite able to step inside. So you get up. You find something small to straighten. You check a thing that did not need checking. You tell yourself you will rest in a minute once this one last task is handled. But the small tasks refill themselves quietly, the way they always seem to. And the ease you were promised keeps staying a few feet out of reach. This is the part almost no one says out loud, that the free time you long for all week can be strangely difficult to be inside. Not boring, not lonely, something closer to uncomfortable. As if the empty hour is asking you a question you do not know how to answer. Here is something worth noticing. When your days are full, you rarely feel this. A packed schedule is tiring, but it is also oddly simple. Every moment already has somewhere to point. Your attention has a job. There is always a next thing, and the next thing quietly tells you where to aim. But when the next thing disappears, the aiming does not. That is the part that catches people off guard. You assume the readiness in you was a response to all the demands. Take the demands away, and surely it would fade with them. Instead, it stays. It keeps looking for something to do. And when it cannot find anything outside you, it turns around and starts searching inside. That is often what restlessness really is. Not too little to do. A kind of attention that has run out of acceptable targets and has nowhere left to land except on you. Your plans, your half-finished thoughts, the conversation from yesterday that did not quite end the way you wanted, the thing you might have forgotten. The quiet stops feeling like space and starts feeling like a gap you were supposed to be filling. There is a reason this happens, and it is not a flaw in you. A mind that has spent a long time staying prepared does not read stillness as relief. It reads it as something unfamiliar. For a system used to checking and anticipating, an open afternoon does not arrive as permission. It arrives as a place where it cannot quite tell whether everything is actually fine. And not being able to tell is exactly the feeling it once learned to settle by staying busy. So you fill it. You check the door you already know is locked just to be sure. You reach for your phone, not because you want anything in particular, but because the looking gives your attention somewhere to go. You turn rest into a small project with steps so that even resting has a quiet task hidden inside it. You might notice it on the days that are supposed to be the easiest. A free Sunday that you somehow spend planning the week ahead instead of being in. A holiday you book to escape, where you find yourself sorting out problems that could have waited, or mentally rehearsing the return before you have even unpacked. The rest is technically there. You just cannot seem to land in it. And underneath all of this often is a quiet sense that you have not earned it yet. That stopping is something you are only allowed once everything has been handled. The trouble is that everything is never fully handled. There is always one more thing that could be done, one more way to be useful, one more problem you could get ahead of before it arrives. So, the permission to stop never quite comes. You end up resting only when you are too depleted to continue. Not because you chose to, because you ran out. Notice what that means. For you, rest may not have become a decision. It became a kind of collapse. The only stillness your system fully trusts is the kind that comes after exhaustion, when there is genuinely nothing left to give, which is a strange thing to live inside. It means the lighter, freer rest, the kind you actually wanted, the kind with energy still in it, feels almost suspicious. Too easy. Somehow unearned. You may know it most clearly at night. The day is finally over. Nothing else can be done, and nothing else is expected of you. You lie down, and instead of arriving at rest, you arrive at a kind of review. The mind reaches back through the hours and picks up the things it did not have time to settle while you were moving. A message you are not certain landed the way you meant. A decision you are still quietly checking. A tone of voice someone used that you cannot quite read. The bed, which is supposed to be the softest place you own, becomes the one room where the whole day reopens and asks to be looked at one more time. There is a particular sensation some people describe, though they rarely have the words for it. It is the feeling of sitting in a waiting room before being called in. You are not doing anything. Nothing is wrong. But some part of you is leaning slightly forward, listening, half expecting that at any moment something will be required of you. Even on a free day. Even when no one is coming. That forward-leaning quality does not stand down just because the calendar is empty. It simply waits. And waiting, it turns out, feels a lot like work. You may even watch other people drop into rest so easily that it confuses you. They sit down and they are simply there, in the chair, in the afternoon, untroubled by all the things you are quietly tracking. It can look like they know a secret you were never told. But it is rarely a secret. It is more often that nothing in their history taught them to treat stillness as a risk. You were taught something different. And you learned it well. Because if you go back far enough, this usually is not about laziness or willpower at all. Somewhere along the way, you may have learned that your steadiness was useful. That being the one who noticed things early, who stayed on top of it, who did not let anything slip, was how you mattered or how you stayed safe. Maybe it kept the people around you calm. Maybe it kept you out of trouble. Maybe it was simply expected of you, so early that you never questioned it. And so being ready stopped being something you did and quietly became something you are. When that happens, slowing down does not feel like a break. It feels like setting down a part of yourself you are not sure you are allowed to put down. The discomfort and stillness is not really about the stillness. It is about who you become when you are not being useful. And that is a far harder thing to sit with than a quiet afternoon. So here is what I want to offer you, gently. The problem was never that you do not know how to relax. You know perfectly well how. You have simply lived inside a pattern where relaxing came last, if it came at all. Where attention was rewarded and stillness was treated with suspicion. Where stopping had to be justified before it was allowed. That is not a character defect. It is what happens to a person who spent a long time being depended on, or being careful, or staying a step ahead of things. It made sense. It probably still makes a quiet kind of sense. And once you can see it clearly, something begins to loosen. Not because you have fixed it, because you finally understand why the free hour felt so heavy. It was never the emptiness you were struggling with. It was the unfamiliar experience of having nothing to manage in a system that learned to feel most like itself while managing. You do not have to force the afternoon to become restful. That would just be another task, and you have enough of those. You can let it be exactly what it is. A little uncomfortable, a little unfamiliar. You can sit in it badly. You can fail at relaxing and stay sitting there anyway. Because the restlessness is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is an old habit of attention, looking for a job. slowly discovering that, for now, there is not one. And maybe that is enough for today. Not to relax perfectly, not to finally master the art of doing nothing, just to notice that the discomfort makes sense, that you came by it honestly, that the part of you that cannot quite settle has been working for a very long time and has simply forgotten that it is allowed to stop. It does not need to be convinced all at once. It only needs to learn slowly that nothing is being asked of it right now. And that kind of learning does not happen through pushing. It happens like this, by sitting in the quiet, even when the quiet feels strange, and letting it stay strange for as long as it needs to until one evening you notice it has quietly stopped feeling that way.
If this spoke to something real inside you, stay connected. There's more to explore within. And if you feel ready, you can subscribe and walk this path, step by step.